So we're hoping that what comes out of this today, some personal ideas, some ideas for how can being a support group facilitator help us, make us feel better, improve our sense of fulfillment right through our days, right through our lives. I have this little thing that I do. I finish the session, I go in, type up the notes on the computer, the claim form goes out because we all have managed care and stuff like that. And then I go to the bathroom, and there's this long hall, and as I'm coming back in the bathroom, I can feel everything dropping away. I'm clearing the decks for action. I notice it also whenever I'm going to work. As my car pulls towards the office building, I can feel almost like a kind of a shift happen, quieting. I still have not, after 40-some years, not figured out a ritual for after the last patient. And my wife knows exactly what I've been dealing with my last patient because I come home and I act the same way, you know. So I know she wishes that I would come up with something to let that all go. So for me, learning mindfulness tools has really been an important part of managing my own personal self. And I was talking to Heather about this, that what we'd like for you to be able to do is also have that ability to take your shifting and your mindfulness and have that be useful at work or with the kids or, in relationships with your significant other, or just whenever you're walking through a park.
I'd like to talk about ways that you can be more mindful in your own lives, but then also maybe how you can bring that into group afterwards. So first, does anyone have any things that you do use to stay present or mindful or not be so hard on yourself throughout the day?
I've had a really bad day and I can't seem, all of my other tricks don't work. When I get a shower at night and I envision washing off all the bad stuff and having it go down the drain. We tell that to our daughter too. She's frustrated, so just go. I don't know, Mommy, I'm gonna go wash down the drain. And often works. I mean, some days are harder than others, but.
For me also, I see a therapist weekly. It helps me to stay balanced and focused in my home and my outside life and facilitating the support group and just working and learning to everything's not personal, and that everybody has different feelings at different points of time, and another thing is that feelings are not facts.
Yeah, feelings are not facts. Yeah, so you know what she's saying, I hear, is that she has phrases or words or thoughts that you can use not just when you're in your therapist's office, but through the course of a day, like little statements that you tell yourself, like, that's the words that work for me, And there was someone else had an idea.
I do thought stopping. I let myself think about the negative thought for a minute, and then I put it out of my head. I'm done.
How do you do that?
I allow myself to think the negative thought, and then after I've thought it, I just feel like I've released it and let it go.
The psychologists use the equation A to A, E to E. Avoidance leads to anxiety. Exposure leads to extinction. And so the whole idea that the modern work in reducing phobias is to move towards them. And one of the things that they talk about a lot is the idea of allowing the phobic feeling, the fear, to come up, move towards it, be a phobia hunter, a panic hunter. Move towards it. Allow that feeling to build and build and build, and allow it to drop away on its own. Then the next time, what will happen is it'll peak a little lower, and it won't be quite so fast. If you get to a certain point, and then you say, I can't do this, then what will happen the next time, it'll peak faster and higher. You'll have anticipatory anxiety. So the idea of allowing it to come, allowing the negative to come, even sort of in a way, if you're phobic, welcoming it coming is another, and then allowing it to do all the stuff to you that it does. The dry mouth, the pounding heart, the cold hands, all of that stuff. Allowing that to happen, and then discovering, oh my God, it's not quite as bad as it was 5 minutes ago. I may actually live through this, you know? That experience of discovery is a really important one in phobia reduction. So yeah, that's a great use of mindfulness in everyday life. What other ones? Yeah.
I have to disagree with you, only because like my son has a fear of needles.
Yeah. Well, it's great. See, as a facilitator, I don't have to be an expert. I wonder if the rest of you, if you have people or times in your own lives when you act as not just a guide, but a model, and do you have to work on yourself? And would mindfulness work help with that? Yeah.
I'm a teacher that facilitates a group, and in my classroom we have social skills groups, and so every day we do mindfulness together. And at first the kids would kind of laugh because we were all sitting there, and it was very difficult, you know, to sit there with your eyes closed. And I have a variety of age levels too, so that, you know, it was hard to watch each other. But I have to be careful now with my reactions with them too in situations, because you know, if I expect them to not to express mindfulness whenever they're angry, and you know, then I have to stop and control that and regulate myself and be a model in that way. So it's helped me in that way to regulate my own stress levels with them.
I feel like I have almost the exact same story. I always joke, my son is 25 now, my autistic son, and I used to always complain that I could never lose my temper. I could never, you know, get anxious or uptight, because it would just so escalate him, of course. And it'd be like, I don't get to be myself, I don't get to be normal, I don't get to be genuine. I'm constantly sort of repressing my feelings and emotions, and that's so difficult, oh, poor me. And then I realized somewhere along the line, and especially when we're in the car, because I am not allowed to have road rage. That would just not work for anybody at all. And suddenly I realized, though, because I'm not allowed to have road rage, I've stopped having road rage, which is kind of the end result you want to be getting. I feel so much more calm. Like, something will happen and I'll think, I could get upset about that and express it, but whatever. You know, and it's like, it's so much easier not to get mad all the time. And it's not a hardship not to get mad all the time. It's healthy not to get mad all the time. So yeah, I've done that same kind of, you know.
So what I'm getting out of that is that you, like the teacher was the learner, that you taught it and then it sort of washed back and changed you. Now, so I was wondering about that with support groups, how, you know, if doing a support group supports you or washes back onto you. It's, just like you do individually with your son, I'm just wondering whether that, I don't know, what experiences have any of you had about the effect of running groups?
My support group has become, there have been times when we've had a lot of people, and some of those people didn't fit in as well, or they had different intentions or different needs than sort of the core group, and it's kind of come back to the core group. And that core group, we've just sort of all become girlfriends, and we just have such fun together, and we share stories, and we gossip, and we usually eat and drink, and it's such a fun evening that I spend with my support group. And so of course that always is a positive thing in your life, to spend time with people that you really enjoy. But I also sometimes feel guilty about the fact that I haven't done more to pull back in the other people who didn't seem as good fits. There would be things I could do, change the dates or the times or the topics, or control the topics better, and I could have a bigger group. So I go back and forth between that, because it's a really successful group, even though it's a really small group.
That's a nice story about a very big thing, which is the ethics of being a support group facilitator. We all need to be free to have friends. I have an ethics consultant, Connie Fisher, who used to be the dean of the psychology program at Duquesne University, was also the president of the PPA. And for maybe 25 years, she and I have gotten together once a month, and we just sit down and we just go over my practice. Not to see if there's something wrong, but how am I living it out? What do I need to pay attention to? And Connie came up with the simplest way of being an ethical therapist or being an ethical support group facilitator. She said, when you're working, you got to be asking yourself a simple question with every heartbeat. And that question is, for whose sake? And for whose sake am I silent now? For whose sake am I telling you about Connie Fisher? For whose sake am I smiling at one person in particular? And maybe, no, I'm not trying to, work people over or be manipulative. But if I'm just doing it so that I get a better feeling about me, it's for my sake. While you're a support group facilitator, the answer always needs to be for your sake and for our sake. And so, yeah, have best friends, but when you go in and you're a support group facilitator, this is almost it's a sacred role, because you get to help people fly. While you're in that role as group facilitator, you got to be asking yourself the question, for whose sake? And then once the group is over, you can do clicks, you can go drinks, you can do whatever you need to do. But people need to be able, all of them need to be able to be ready to be surprised whenever the support group is going on.
I wanted to mention an observation, or this feeling of for whose sake that I experienced now. Before Carolyn brought up the effect on herself of being a group leader, I really wanted to go there and prompt that question. And in my head, I was thinking, well, how does it feel? How do you handle maybe the difficulties that might come along with that? But I stopped and I thought, I think we might get there anyway. And then it did. It came around, and even in a better way, because it was all a positive focus. Like, I really anticipated something very different to happen, and then here 3 people brought up all of the positive things that come up from being a part of the support group. So there, it's really hard to do. I find myself really struggling with this all the time, the for whose sake question, because I think I have a great thing to say or I have a great thing to add, but I really have to stop and think about what that might mean for people, and if I'm doing it for me so I can pat myself on the back, or if I'm really doing it to help other people.
I feel like I'm concentrating more on everybody else's sake and not my sake. I feel like since my son's diagnosis, my entire world is autism, and so that's my struggle.
So how do you take care of yourself then?
I'm here.
Yeah, so what we're talking about are ways that mindfulness fits into the rest of the day and the rest of the week. And, we're talking about the resources that we have, the trusted counsel, the sponsors, the therapists, the ethics consultants, the friends. But remember, that without those ability to shift, those mindfulness skills, we don't know when to go to them. I know there are times that I look back and I think, why didn't you talk? My son is a pilot, and he said in the big planes, the failure of communication in the cockpit where somebody is thinking, there's something going wrong here, but I don't know if I want to talk to the captain about it. You know what he's like. And then everybody's pretending that, the elephant's not in the living room, and a terrible thing happens. So mindfulness can be used as a tool for just taking a reading on whether you need to touch base with your buddies.
So as a leader that I'm going to continue to attempt to be, I'm having to remind myself that all these resources that I really, really leaned on to become a better advocate for my son are still there. I still feel like that parent who just got the diagnosis and who just, had everything fall apart, and I'm having to pick everything up and do it in 3 seconds flat because, tomorrow's about to be here. Mm-hmm. I don't know that I'll ever get out of that. Maybe some people who've been doing it longer than me can tell me if that ever ends. I don't expect it to. Mm-hmm. But the transition of trusting myself that I can be there for other people and not mm-hmm. know the answers for everything, and I don't have to have gone through what they went through, and to be able to help guide them where they need to go for their own journey.
That illustrates another important thing about mindfulness is that in letting go and training your mind to be able to keep a focus and then let go, that allows you to live now.
I'm trying to lose that tunnel vision in all senses of the word, lose it for my sons, but losing that focus too, losing that tunnel vision when talking to other parents, and realizing that I'm not there anymore. I don't have to have the emotions that get drummed up every time I talk about what happened and the experiences, and I can't figure out a way to put that to bed.
I think we all hear the story of how having the challenge that we have, whether it's someone on the autism spectrum or other people that are in our lives that we've committed to who take us all the way down into the dark and back again, how those people actually are a gift in that they almost force us to learn how to shift. That we have to see things different and deeper than a lot of people around us. When you can shift, when you can do what you guys are talking about doing, then you don't burn as much energy, because tightening down on a topic or a fear or a phobia or a hope or a concern is exhausting. People tighten up muscles, just like I said, and people tighten up their thinking, and all of that drains energy. And that's the reason why so many of us, I think, can walk around in our day feeling really depleted, because we are still a little bit locked down and a little bit hypnotized by the content, which leads to what are the roles of the people sitting in this room and support group facilitators in general.